Welcome to Farmer Pat's Garden Patter. I'm Farmer Pat. I'm Farmer Pat. We're here today with Greg Griffin and Jessica Letier, located at the newest garden location at 445 South River Street in Wilkes Barre, Pennsylvania. This is a coordinated effort between the Blight Committee and local South Wilkes Barre residents. Greg, can you tell us how this garden got started with the Blight Committee and with the local residents of this neighborhood?
Sure, Pat. Our Citizens Blight Committee, and Jessica's a member of it, and we have several members. We saw that Wilkes-Barre City had vacant lots available for purchase, and so we notified Mayor Brown and City Council that we were interested in this particular lot, so we could construct a community garden. And we wanted to give back to the community, and it's been very successful. And we just want to thank the City Health Department and Wilkes-Barre City for letting us enter into an agreement to purchase this property so we could turn it into a community garden.
So you turned a vacant lot into a thriving community garden. That's wonderful.
Yes, well, we have to fight blight, I believe, and Jessica believes also, the rest of us. We believe if we put a flower gardens in or a community garden, it eliminates a vacant property that had litter on it, and we clean it up and we return it back to the community and help provide them with sustainable vegetables.
Awesome. And every time I drive around different cities, I see countless abandoned lots. And ever since I was a kid, I always thought how they could be transformed into sources of food for the local residents, while also beautifying the city and reducing crime by taking a vacant lot that was once used for different purposes into something that's so productive. So Jessica, you are the garden project manager. Can you tell us how you got involved and why you are so passionate about this project?
Well, I got involved just by seeing Greg's posts online about blight, and we started talking about how people needed food because it was in the middle of a pandemic. And one of the issues people had was getting fresh food or being able to afford it. So we decided to get the lots and grow the food, and we educate people. We bring them here and teach them how to grow things. We allow you to harvest whenever you want. People come and help grow. And we focus on not just growing food, but building healthy soil. So to build the bacteria in it, to help with the nutrient cycle, to help grow our food. So it's nutrient dense, fresh, and we don't use pesticides or fertilizers.
That's wonderful. So the healthier the soil is, the healthier the fruits and vegetables that you're growing. Yes. And when the people eat them, then they're healthier and happier as well.
Exactly, and everybody deserves fresh food.
Absolutely. And what I love about these gardens in the middle of the city is that when I started educating people about growing food, people used to tell me, well, not everyone lives on a farm, and that's no excuse. Growing food, if you see grass and different plants and trees, then you can plant a garden. And you guys are demonstrating that this is possible anywhere and everywhere. I absolutely love that about what you guys are doing.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
So Jessica and Greg, can you tell me, what does this garden mean for the local residents of this South Wilkes Barre neighborhood?
Means they have access to fresh food that maybe in the grocery store they wouldn't be able to afford, or maybe if they get WIC, they don't have enough WIC to cover it, and they could save money for other things like their electric bills, their medicines, maybe the kids need tutors, and there's really important things that people don't have money for anymore, and I want to make sure that food might not be one of them for them, you know?
Absolutely. And you're also teaching them how to grow food themselves.
Yes.
So that then they can do this at their own homes.
Either in their yards or container gardening even. I have some people who have reached out and we've helped them with that as well.
That's wonderful.
I think the community garden is bringing hope to each neighborhood where there is a community garden. And the children especially, I think, are very enthused by it because they see it growing, and a lot of them actually help plant the seeds. So it's very good for them, and of course it's nice if they take lettuce home for the night's dinner. And so we want to expand on the community garden concept because there's many more vacant lots in Wilkes-Barre. So we're working very closely with Mayor Brown and Wilkes-Barre City Council to have more lots and more hope for the community.
That's wonderful. And just like a garden, what starts off as one tiny seed ends up feeding a lot of people.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, Greg and Jessica, can you tell me, is there anything special you do with your produce once it's harvested?
Well, we allow the community to harvest whenever they see something that's available. Other than that, we are right now talking to the Salvation Army, St. Paul's Soup Kitchen on the square, and then we're trying to organize with Luzerne County Community College and their pantry on the square as well to donate the rest of our harvest to them.
Wow. So you two are putting in a substantial amount of work.
Well, yes, there's a lot of other community garden members as well that do a lot of work for
Every
us too.
Saturday there's volunteers here.
Saturday or Sunday, yep.
And Jessica, she's here a lot of times during the week. And just cutting the grass is a job.
Yeah.
I wish we could eat the grass. Can we?
We're gonna cover it with wood chips. We don't want the grass.
Well, I always say to people, you can't eat grass, so plant a garden.
Beautiful.
So Jessica, I'm very impressed with all the different crops that you have grown in your garden. And when people think of gardens, they think of just what can I plant to eat. But right here, you have some cover crops. Can you tell me about why cover crops are important and why you've planted them?
Well, the cover crops, it gives the soil like a big layer of armor on top of it, and it
So it's suppressing the weeds because of how dense and thick this
yes,
is. Okay?
yes, and everything in this bed at least complements each other very well. Like we have the sunflowers, we have the corn, we have the gourds, we have peas, all different kinds of flowers. We have even radishes, turnips, and some brassicas in there as well.
So it's really neat.
It's like a whole system.
Yeah, the peas are providing nitrogen back to the soil.
Yes.
So they actually take nitrogen from the air and they fix it into the soil. That's really, really neat about peas and other legumes. And then you were also explaining to me about the tillage radish, which you have growing over here. So tell us about the radishes that you have grown as part of this cover crop system.
Well, it helps break up all the soil, and it gives good airflow. It helps again with the nutrient cycling in the soil.
Okay, so that tillage radish can go up to a foot or more into the soil. So if you're planting a garden for the first time, maybe you're thinking ahead, or you've been planting for a number of years, and all the walking over the garden and all the equipment has compacted the soil.
Yes.
If you plant a cover crop with tillage radish, that will really help break that compacted soil down. So you'll get better water infiltration, and when you plant your different vegetables, the roots will have an easier time moving through that soil.
Yes, exactly.
This is wonderful. So cover crops are a vital part of a garden.
They are, and you could eat some of these too. You could mill the buckwheat, you could eat the sunflower heads. The gourds that come in have pumpkins, watermelons, and summer squashes, mung beads, and crimson beans, I believe they are.
So this cover crop mix you have is not just feeding the soil, but it's also providing us an opportunity to eat ourselves. And speaking of feeding, I see you have a Japanese beetle over there. And right now, at the end of June, Japanese beetles are on the prowl.
Yes, they are.
And they're causing problems for people's gardens. So what solutions do you have to control pests like Japanese beetles?
Squish it.
Squish it? That's what I do.
Other than that, we'll use like a dill to keep bugs away, or marigolds.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I do when I see Japanese beetles. If you see them, you could tip them off and put them into a container of like soapy water to help remove them from your garden.
Yeah.
Or you could just squish them.
Just squish them.
If you do it once or twice, you get over that weird, awkward feeling.
Oh yeah, of course.
Look at these tasty tomatoes that Jessica is doing a wonderful job of growing. What stands out to me right away is that she's making sure that she's pruning them. So right here on your tomatoes, you'll get this excess growth that you can see. You want to make sure that you pinch that sucker off, and if you get it while it's young and tender, you could just use your fingers and pinch it off. This is important because, well, maybe Jessica can explain to us why.
Well, it's important because these plants almost vine everywhere, and they will continue growing from those suckers, and if you don't clip them off, you're not going to get as good as a harvest as you want to get.
So you'll get your tomato plants will be too bushy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Too overcrowded and too much vegetation. And if you have too much vegetation, once it gets wet, when the leaves are prolonged wet, they increase their chance for getting diseases.
Yes, and that's why we want to make sure we pull them all the way up to the top here.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I see you've
to
been
help
removing them
reduce the chance of pests
from
and
the
disease.
bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about your tomatoes, that you've done such a good job pruning them, that you only have one main stalk coming up from the ground.
Yes,
And as it's,
trying to.
well, you're doing a great job, and I can see as it's growing that you're staking it so that it's supported and it's off the ground. Because if it's on the ground, you can grow them that way. That's called the guerrilla style.
Yep.
But then you're at an increased risk of different diseases, and it's going to be too wet, and some of your tomatoes may rot on the ground.
Yep, we had that happen last year with some of our boxes. They went up and over and down just after we got so high that we couldn't go higher with the stakes. So they went out until probably the end of September.
So this year I see you're doing a wonderful job. You're very proactive with keeping your tomatoes nice and pruned and staking them, and I think I might stop over next weekend when these tomatoes are ready.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, one of the things that stands out about the way you grow food here at this garden is that you do use compost. And tell us about how much compost you use.
With our compost, we only really use a thin layer, maybe like an inch, maybe a little bit more if that. And we only top dress everything before we plant it, and then we put our mulch on top of it. Because if we put too much compost, it leaches the nutrients out of the soil. It's too much in there, basically.
I think that made my day, because compost is very beneficial to the soil, but like everything else, there can be too much of a good thing. And since it's high, it could be high in different nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. When you get a lot of rain and it washes off into the watershed, it causes pollution. And it can cause pollution in the Susquehanna River, which flows into the Chesapeake Bay.
Yes.
And ultimately, it causes what's known as eutrophication, which is too many nutrients in the watershed. So then you get an increase in plant matter like algae. And as that plant matter dies, then all the microorganisms in the water have to break that plant matter down. So they consume all the oxygen as energy. So then there's no oxygen left for all the vertebrates in the water like fish and different reptiles.
Exactly, exactly.
One of the other things you mentioned was mulch. I'm very impressed with the different types of mulch that you have here. I see you have some straw and also grass clippings from the yard.
Yep. It breaks down nice, and it's a good cover to hold the moisture in and to protect the soil if we don't have anything currently up and growing in it.
Okay, so mulching will help prevent erosion.
Yes.
It retains the soil moisture, and also it adds food to the soil, to all the different microorganisms and the earthworms. That's one of the things I like about organic mulches like straw and grass clippings, is that you're feeding the soil. If you use stuff like black plastic, it's wonderful because you're helping prevent erosion, but you're not really adding any food to the soil. So if you can, and it's available to you, try to stick with the organic mulches like you're doing here at your garden. Now, something else I've noticed that you have are the marigolds.
Yes.
Is that a myth, or do marigolds really help to deter different pests like rabbits?
I have not had any issues this year or last year with squirrels, rabbits, groundhogs, or even like most beetles besides the Japanese beetle, and I really believe it is because of the marigolds, because we companion plant with them. And I know it's also beneficial for like our tomatoes. It helps keep the root knot and nematodes away.
Okay.
So it's a good thing to have. And apparently to the animals, they smell really, really bad.
And they look very pretty to us.
Yes. Yep.
Well, I have something to admit. I've never used marigolds in my garden, but after seeing how successful they are here, I might have to start doing it myself.
Definitely should.
Look at this beautiful broccoli that you have planted here. Can you tell us a bit about how you care for and plant broccoli?
Well, these are cool weather crops, and you plant these. These are the first ones you start with in the season when it's cooler. Right now, we're trying to see if they make it, because they might bolt because it's a little hot. But we use shade cloth to help protect them during the heat in the day, and to help take care of them, we pull the leaves off from the bottom up to try to, again, prevent pests or rot or anything like that. And that will help focus the growth up at the top to where our florets come in right here. And then these ones over here are our Brussels sprouts, and the same thing, we pull the leaves off to help promote growth to where the Brussels sprouts are supposed to be. And it's cool that they're like from the same plant family, but they grow completely differently.
Yeah. And you were saying broccoli is one of the first crops you can plant.
Yes.
Can you give us a timeline of when you can start planting them? Can you plant them in the middle of April, the end of April, early May?
We did ours in the beginning of April. We had one freeze that we had to cover them for, but they made it. And they've been going since then, a little slowly because we get a lot of shade in the afternoon that comes, or in the morning that comes through here. But besides that, you really don't want to grow broccoli when it's hotter than probably 70 degrees because they like to bolt. Like these ones have been starting to, it looks like.
Okay. So plant them early in the season so that you can harvest them by the peak of the summer, but then you could also plant them again towards the end of the season to get a fall crop, right?
Yeah, start them indoors, maybe plant them in the end of August, beginning of September is what I would do.
Okay, wonderful. So Jessica, this plant caught my eye as soon as I saw your garden. I've never seen this before. Can you explain to me what it is?
This is an nasturtium. The whole plant is edible, the stems, the leaves, the flowers. It's a trailing plant and it's a really beautiful plant, and some people use it as a trap crop to help bring aphids away from their brassicas.
Okay.
But it's a very peppery plant. The flowers have a little more kick than the leaves, and it's very popular here down at the garden.
Can you eat it raw, or do you have to cook it? What do you recommend?
You could eat it raw. You should try some.
Well, I haven't eaten anything since this morning, so let's give it a go.
You just pinch the leaf.
Do you recommend eating a bigger leaf or a smaller leaf?
A smaller leaf.
Okay. Because smaller leaves, they're easier, they're softer, right? And
yes.
they're easier to eat? Okay. Let's see that one. Make sure there's no bugs. Wow.
It's good.
Yeah, it tastes peppery.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. You better watch out, I might eat the whole thing.
That's all right.
Yeah, it has a nice little kick to it at the end, too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They're really, really good. One of our volunteers down here, she said once they get a little bigger, she's going to take some and make some quiche with them.
Okay.
I think it'd be really good.
Yeah, this is another one of the advantages of growing your own garden, is that every single day you have access to fresh fruits and vegetables.
Yes.
Well, Jessica and Greg, thank you so much for showing us your garden today, and we'll see you next time on Farmer Pat's Garden Patter.
Hi, I'm Wilkes-Barre Mayor George Brown. City of Wilkes-Barre is very happy to be supporting the City Health Department's Community Garden Program. Now this year, there are community gardens in 6 areas of the city. The gardens give residents the opportunity to work together to grow and eat healthy fruits and vegetables directly from their neighborhoods. Thank you to the participating agencies, their staff, volunteers, and the neighbors who help the gardens to grow. Now, this project is funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Health's Preventative Health and Health Services Block Grants. The Community Garden Program is an example of Wilkes-Barre City's commitment to the growth and development of a productive and healthy community.
The Wilkes-Barre Community Garden Program is part of the Wilkes-Barre Health Department's Preventative Health Division. The gardens are part of the Health Department's mission to promote access to homegrown foods like fresh fruits and vegetables for a healthier lifestyle. For more information on the Community Garden Program, contact the Wilkes-Barre Health Department through its Facebook page, the city website, or call the health educators at 570-208-4287 or 570-208-4653. This project was funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Health's Preventative Health and Health Services Block Grant.